Yeah. Okay. So in last class, we completed demand and supply, and we just started market equilibrium. So market equilibrium is basically, this is my supply curve and this is my demand curve. Price and quantity. This point we called as a market equilibrium. Okay. Just try to understand. Yeah. So what happened? Means supplier expect higher prices. Okay. So if you see, the quantity get increases as the prices increases, and the customer need a lower prices. Okay. So quantity increases as the prices decreases. Okay. But there should be, means there should be a point where the supplier is willing to sell as well as the customer is willing to buy. Okay. If customer supplier is willing to sell at this level, okay, so in that situation, like because of higher price, the demand will be less. Okay. If the customer willing to buy at this price, okay, but in that situation the supplier may not willing to sell it. Okay, so in both the situation there may be a either surplus quantity or the shortage may arise. Okay, only this point, I mean the market equilibrium point, it may possible that whatever the supplier willing to produce or supply, that can be purchased by the or consumed by the customer. Okay, so that's why we called it as a market equilibrium. You can take an example like supply and demand. Okay, you can consider this price is a 5, this price is a 10, and this price is basically the 15. Okay, at 15, maybe a supplier is willing to sell. Willing to sell. Okay, but customer is not ready to buy. Not ready to buy. Okay, so what would be the impact? Supplier is willing to sell. That means he is ready to produce more. Okay, but customer is not willing to buy. So this will be oversupply or the shortage. What can be what can happen?
Stocks will be remained as it is. So there will be no output. There will be no sales basically.
Yeah, no sale or less sell, you can say. Some of the people, some of the customer may afford at 15. Okay, so it is less sell. So what happened? Produce quantity is higher than consume quantity, right? Means customer is going to consume, they are not ready to consume, but supplier is ready to produce. So this leads to overstocking. Okay, see, if you just take an example of the car manufacturing companies, okay, sometimes they float the some offers, okay, and they maintain a one price for a particular price for a car, okay, and they feel that they can get the like the customer at that price for their car model, okay, but when actually they floated the prices, they come to know their production is high and buying from the customer is less. Okay, so in that situation they come they may reach at a conclusion, or they will conclude that or situation may arise that there is an overstocking. Okay, I mean the production is going on, but the distributor or the dealers are not ready to place an order because they already have a stock. Okay, so this situation arises, and you need to conclude, or they need to conclude that there is a situation of overstocking. That means the customer is not ready to accept the prices. Okay, they may go to the competitor like this. Okay, after that they float the offer and try to means the cost to the customer will be maintain a cost to the customer will be slightly less. Okay, and then they says they generate an offer during the festival, but their main intention is basically to clear the stock. Okay, so once you come with a situation of overstocking, then you need to reduce your prices. Okay, and then try to see whether customers are willing to accept those prices, and you need to clear your stock. Okay, so this situation generally it happens when the customer base is not the business unit, they are mostly the consumer, direct consumer. So in that situation you need to evaluate this kind of strategy. Always you need to float with your product with a higher prices, and if you find that your customer is not ready to absorb those prices, then you need to step by step, I mean by way of offer, you need to reduce your prices, and then you need to make sure that your stock get liquidated. Okay, so this is one aspect. Second, I mean the reverse situation. Price is 5. Okay, in that at that prices, supplier is not willing to produce because their margin get shrink, or they cannot generate a sufficient produce. Generally, for daily needs item or necessary item, this kind of situation is arises. Okay, but customer demand is very high. High. Okay, so what happened here? Production is less than consumption. So what would be the situation if this is the if this is the scenario? What is the outcome? Shortage. Okay, so this is basically means supplier is not willing to produce the, but the customer has a demand. So generally for necessity item or the daily needs item, this kind of situation arises. So always you find sometimes there is a shortage. Okay, so whenever you are I mean if you are dealing or the market acceptable market prices are below or above equilibrium prices, in that situation there is a chances of um, overstocking or the shortage. Okay, at equilibrium prices, at equilibrium prices, here the supplier is also willing to produce and the customer is also willing to buy, so there is no question of overstocking or the shortage. So that is basically the equilibrium prices. Okay, now you can see the changes in demand on equilibrium prices. So that we already discussed. Okay, so because of some test or preferences or something like that, if the equilibrium prices shift from this level to this level, okay, so what you need to consider?
Decrease in demand.
It is. Yes. Can you repeat?
Decrease in demand.
Yeah, but means how I can say. mm what is basically the impact of if there is a change in equilibrium price, then I mean what are the reason for change in equilibrium price? Any guess? I mean that is clear. The demand get decreased.
Maybe the price is increased, or that is why the change is happening in the demand curve.
Okay, so in this example, if you see the equilibrium price is at this level, that means the now the equilibrium price get decreased. Okay, try to I mean in a normal scenario you just need to think. Okay, so earlier my equilibrium price is 15, but now my equilibrium price is 5. Okay, so what is basically the issue means what happened in the market? Okay, that we are I mean I'm trying to explain. Means it is clear. See, if you read this line, then you can understand basically the demand get decrease, price get increase, and the demand get decrease. It is like this. Okay. But means in a practical scenario, okay, just I'll give in one example. Earlier, those people who are earning, say, for 15,000 per month, just an hypothetical example, and now, I mean, this class of people's earning get 10,000. Okay, so now they cannot afford. I mean, most of the some of the people they cannot afford at a 15. Now their expectation, because see, if there is a reduction of the income, then automatically their expectation to buy each and every item at a reduced prices. Okay, means I'm just trying to explain like what are the reasons which. So it is a set. Means earlier what happened? 15 is the equilibrium price. Means customers are ready to buy at 15. Supplier is also ready to supply at 15. But now the equilibrium price shifted to 5. Okay. So first reason is basically consumer income. They cannot afford at a 15. Now they can pay only 5. If the supplier is still willing to supply at a 15, they are going to out of business. Okay, so what supplier need to do? They need to do the reverse engineering and bring it to this level. I mean, their costing and profitability means they're supposed to willing to supply those. Okay, so the first scenario is consumer income. Second, any other guess like this?
Uh, in market, if many substitutes come.
Yes, substitutes. Because of substitutes also, okay, substitute or complement, both. This will also affect the equilibrium price. Like if your car prices get high, okay, then automatically the gas or the fuel prices also, I mean the equilibrium price for the fuel prices or the peripherals, that also get changed. Third,
Consumers.
yes, yeah, one by one.
There might be some change in taste of preference of the consumer.
Taste and preferences, yes, correct. If the taste and preference get changed, okay, so that also affect the equilibrium prices. One or two more.
Government policies,
Sorry,
tax policies or government policies.
government policies, yes. If the government announce any incentive or any like BS6 or something like that, okay, So that also affect the equilibrium prices. Government policy, then I can add here like demographics of the population, that will also affect. Okay. Last, I'll tell you, and the future price expectation. Price expectation. Okay. So these are the situations where like equilibrium price get changed. Okay. The basic reason to change the equilibrium price is the first foremost that is basically the consumer income. Rest giving an impact, okay, but it is not that much impact.
Yeah, we can add natural calamities also, sir.
Natural calamity, yeah. Natural calamity also affect. But because of natural calamity, what happened means the consumer income get reduced. So that's what I'm saying. Means the first reason is basically the consumer income. Okay, all depend on the consumer income. Okay. Now these are basically means the customers' behavior get changed. Now, if the situation means the from supplier point of view, for example, means I just give one example, the cost of raw material get increased. Okay, then automatically equilibrium price get shifted. And one more example, because the future prices is also government policy is also applicable for the supplier, and what we saw, test and preferences customer. Okay, the rest. Any one more example?
The change in improvement of technology.
Yeah, changes in technology. Yeah,
Increase in competitors.
increase in
Competitors.
increasing competitor cannot be the that cannot be affect the prices actually, because if the raw material, their production cost is fixed, okay, then maybe because of competition they are not going to reduce their prices. They may cut the
Yes, but
margin.
if we are supplying to the customers, and if there are lot of competitors with us,
Yeah.
we tend to decrease the prices and sell
No,
to all
see
the
what
customers.
happened. Actually, this is basically the situation where there is a perfect competition. Okay, and in that situation, the prices decided by the market, means no one can decide their own price strategy. Okay, so it is applicable to all. I mean, if there are lots of competitor, means lots of buyer and lots of supplier, so no one can keep a control over the prices, and the prices decided by the market. Okay, and this is basically means the customer also has an hold. Okay, well, right now what we are discussing, just because of supplier issue. Okay, what are the chances to, or what could be the reason to shift the equilibrium prices? In those two cases, like the raw material and changes in technology, it will affect the supplier largely, and because of that reason they cannot accommodate or accept the market prices or the customer prices, and they push to shift the equilibrium prices. Okay, so one more example someone is trying to give. Any guess?
Change in exchange rates.
Changes in exchange rate, yeah, that could be the reason. If exchange rate get increase, any other? Okay, so see, keep in mind, this 3 is basically applies to customer and supplier. Okay. But consumer income, substitute and test and preferences, it is totally customer driven. Okay. And the below 3 are supply driven. These are basically the supplier driven. Okay. So whenever you are work in any company, if you are buying the product, okay, so in that situation you act as a customer, and then you need to evaluate what your supplier is willing to charge you on the basis of all this scenario, and accordingly you can do a negotiation. Okay. And the same way, if you are selling the product, then you need to always evaluate what is the customer test and preferences, and accordingly you can decide the prices. Now this chart we need to see. This is D1, D2, and then this is S2, S1. Okay. Now, if you see here, we can consider the scenario. See, D1 to D2. What does it mean? Change in demand increases from this level to this level. Okay. So, what is the effect on? Okay, this is price and the quantity. Okay. So demand increase from D1 to D2, and a change in supply is also basically increased from S1 to S2, like this. Okay. So if this is the situation, then this is my equilibrium point. Okay. So here what happened? Quantity also quantity get increase, or quantity get increase, and price you cannot determine. Okay. Why we cannot determine the prices? Means you can see the clear cut.
Because the demand and
Sorry. If
still because demand and supply curve are not intersecting each other, so we cannot decide the price.
demand and supply cannot intersect each other, but here if you see, just on it, the question is basically change in demand increase, change in supply increase. Okay, so we can conclude effect on equilibrium quantity that get easily we can conclude that get increase, but why we cannot decide the equilibrium prices? This is question basically. Okay, so when my demand increase from D1 to D2, okay, so when okay, and the supply quantity also get increase S1 to S2. Okay, so here this might be the equilibrium. Quantity that we can produce or supply. Okay, but why we cannot decide the prices? Again, change in demand increase, change in supply increase, quantity equilibrium also get increase, but why we cannot decide the equilibrium prices?
Because it's fixed from the market.
Yeah, it is fixed from the market. No. Give a thought over it.
The cost of the donor increased mostly.
Um,
Is it win-win situation for both supplier and customer, so they are not increasing the price?
it is a win-win situation for supplier and yeah. Okay, we what we can do, we can go with the numerical example. This will help you to understand it more clearly. So here, if you see, the price is 5, price is 10. Sorry, price is 10. Okay, so change in demand T2. So my demand curve shift from here to here. Sorry, here to here. The supply curve shift from here to here. So when both the things get increased, means the price, then my quantity is 10, and when the equilibrium price is 10, my quantity is 20. Okay. So like in that situation, if you see, at 5 rupees, I'm okay to sell the 10 quantity. Okay. Then for 20 quantity, if I want to sell the 20 quantity, okay. So supplier want to increase the prices, but the customer want to decrease the prices. Okay. Then and only then they can able to sell, means reach at a conclusion. Okay, so because of that reason, you cannot determine at what level the price, at what price level you can increase change in demand as well as change in supply. Okay, then second is basically change in demand increases and change in supply decreases.
So can you please repeat?
See what happened. Like I want to increase the quantity, equilibrium quantity. Okay. So in that situation, supplier is willing to supply at a higher price, more than 5, but customer is willing to buy at less than 5. Okay. So it is difficult to predict at what price level there should be change in demand and change in supply. Okay. So that's why you cannot decide. I mean, it may be increase, it may be decrease. But if change in demand increases, change in supply increases, that means one thing is clear, your quantity get increased. Think over it.
What will happen about the quantity, sir?
Quantity is definitely going to increase.
So then you are telling that buyers and sellers are in balance. Like both are willing to
Buy more
and both.
quantity and more quantity, and the supplier is also willing to more quantity.
So, but without fixing the price, how can we determine there is increase in demand and increase in supply?
Without fix, that's
Because there
why,
should be some
yes,
price fixed.
yes. So that is the reason. That's why you cannot decide the price at what level change in demand and change in supply increases. See, again, you can take a practical example of any festival goods. Goods. Okay. So in festival days, it is clear that demand and supply both get increase. Both get increase. Okay. But at what price level, that you cannot decide. So change in supply and change in demand both get increase. So that means the consumption is definitely high.
So in this case, the supplier can also create monopoly situation
No,
because they cannot determine the price.
no, they cannot. No one can decide the price. Neither customer nor supplier.
Okay.
Okay. So no one can create. It is basically the situational issue. Okay. But I mean, what you need to see, if there is a continuous change in demand at increasing side and continuously change in supply increasing side, then you can predict the equilibrium quantity, but you cannot predict the prices.
So we can say that if supply and demand are in balance, then the price may go up. I mean, if both are increasing, the price will go up. If both are decreasing, the price will go down.
No, if both are increasing or both are decreasing, then you can predict the increase quantity or decrease quantity, but you cannot predict the prices. See, if change in demand increase, change in supply increase, both are increasing. That means supplier want to supply more, customer want to buy more. So that means the quantity get increase. Okay, but at what price, whether it is upward, downward, that no one knows. So that's why it is indeterminate.
How will they get to a conclusion then?
Okay, if you are a, say for the customer, okay, and one is supplier, okay. In Diwali, I mean, when you get the Diwali bonus, there are lots of offer on a electronic item, okay. So consumer has a Diwali bonus, so that's why they are okay to buy maybe the smartphone. We can take an example of phone, okay. So he is willing to buy phone. Okay, supplier knows now the people has a additional income, so they can buy the phone. That's why he is also able to supply more quantity phone. So one thing is clear: when the demand get increased, change in supply get increased. That means the quantity get increased. Okay. Same way, if there is a recession period, no one is willing to buy, as there is a recession and the supplier knows now at this moment customers are struggling for their daily needs, so they are not also going to buy. So that's why the one point is also clear, the quantity get decrease. Okay, but at what price level, that no one can predict, because it depends on the test of the customer and it depends on the production cost of the supplier, that we cannot predict. But if the change in demand increases, change in supply increases, that means definitely equilibrium quantity get increased. Change in demand decreases, change in supply decreases, that means the quantity get decreased, that for sure. And the prices are effect on equilibrium prices is indeterminate, that we cannot predict. And the same way, if there is an increase in demand but change in supply, means the change in supply, this situation we already discussed. Increase in demand, okay, and decrease in supply, okay, that means shortage. Okay, if there is a shortage, then supplier has a power to dictate the prices. That's why the equilibrium prices get increased. Okay, but you cannot predict the quantity, because whatever the quantity supplier can produce, okay, that he can supply to the customer, but that is not a equilibrium quantity. It is basically only the supply, whatever the supplier able to produce, okay, that he can supply to the customer, okay, but that we cannot say it is an equilibrium quantity. The same way, if there is a decrease in demand and increase in supply, this is basically the over supply. In that situation, supplier need to reduce the prices, so equilibrium prices get reduced to clear the stock. Okay, but quantity you cannot decide, because it depends on the customer. Okay, quantity cannot be determined. But definitely the price will decrease. Why price will decrease? Because the supplier need to clear their stock. Okay. So again, if change in demand and change in supply both increase, that means the equilibrium quantity get increased. If the change in demand and the change in supply both decrease, that means the equilibrium quantity get decreased. But at what prices this equilibrium quantity arises, that you cannot determine. Okay. And the same way, if the change in demand increases but change in supply decreases, that means demand increases, supply decreases, the supplier has a bargaining capacity, so he can take the advantage of this and may increase the prices, so equilibrium prices get increased. Okay, but for what quantity, that cannot be determined. The same way, if there is a decrease in demand and increase in supply, okay, so in that situation also, definitely because the supplier need to clear the stock, so he need to decrease the prices. Okay, but again, the quantity that cannot predict, because it depends on the customer taste and preferences. Clear? Any any point that you need to think or okay. Now, government intervention in the market operation. Okay, so this is my equilibrium price. Okay, this is the price where I mean the supplier is willing to sell and the customer is willing to buy. Okay, but the government fixes the prices. Okay, say for price ceiling means maximum price you can charge at this level. This is price ceiling. Price ceiling. Okay, so maximum price you can charge at this level. Okay, so what would be the effect? Government kept maximum price below the equilibrium price. Okay, supplier cannot sell at a equilibrium price. He is compulsorily need to sell at a price which is lower than equilibrium price. So he is not willing to produce. Not willing to produce. And what would be the situation? Customer want, but supplier is not ready to supply. What is the effect?
Shortage.
Sorry? Shortage. Yeah.
Shortage.
Yeah, it is shortage. Okay. If this is basically the price ceiling and this is price floor. Okay. So minimum price you need to charge or customer need to pay above equilibrium price. Okay. So minimum price is greater than equilibrium price. Okay. So as the minimum price is more than equilibrium price, supplier is willing to produce, but customer is not willing to buy. Produce. But customer is not willing to buy. What will be the situation?
Surplus.
What happened?
Surplus.
Surplus.
Put.
Yeah, oversupply. Okay, so that is basically the impact of price ceiling and price floor. So generally, the government decide the prices for daily needs or some sort of like the cigarettes or liquor. Okay, so in that situation, sometimes they want to discourage the purchases and sometimes they want to encourage the purchases. Okay, so that's why they are intervening in a market operation. So we can see the example. Rent control apartment exist in some places. The prices required by a government mandate to remain at a certain level below the market price. So result is an artificially high demand for those apartments. Okay, so in that situation, supplier is not willing to supply, and there is a there is a shortage. Okay, and in case of the price ceiling, and in case of a price floor, you can always find a supporter for increasing the minimum wage in the United States. However, the business hiring minimum wage workers counter that they will be able to hire fewer people at a higher rate, thus creating a higher unemployment rate among those workers. Again, there is a competition between the social policy and economic policy in this case. Okay, so if the employer cannot afford the minimum wages, okay, so they need to pay the unemployment rate. Okay, so this is basically the price floor. Then we need to see elasticity of the demand.
So
Yes.
in price ceiling, we are keeping the maximum price below the equilibrium price. So above that maximum price, we cannot sell. Won't that be loss to the supplier? Because he is setting the price, and if government is saying you have to sell in the lower price, so there won't be any loss occurred by the supplier.
No. Then in that situation, what happened? Because it is just a condition put by the government on the supplier. Okay. So maybe the additional loss, manufacturing cost loss may be compensated by the government. Okay, but if they are not doing so, so supplier is not with absorb the losses. What he is going to do, he is maintaining the production as less as possible. I tell you, means the practical example basically, if there is a township, okay, so government may give an approval for the say for 500-acre township, and they mandate to the developer to build 5 tower and sell at a less than market prices. Market prices. Okay. So in that situation, what happened? The builder, just because of condition of sanction, he is willing to do. Okay. He will build 5 tower only. Okay. But the demand for this tower is more than, I mean, because like everybody is ready to buy at a lesser prices, market less prices. But the demand for this is maybe the infinite. For low price tower is very high. High. Okay, so that's why if you see the like in Maharashtra there is a MHADA, means it is a government organization. Okay, so they need to allot the flat by lottery system. Okay, because you are getting a like 10 times or even 100 times application, but you cannot allot the flat to everyone. Okay, so this way, I mean practically this kind of situation happened. Okay, so supplier is just taking this obligation because he is getting an some benefit in other aspect. Okay, so he is only want to fulfill the obligation. He is not matching the demand for that product. Okay, he is just completing his obligation like this. So there is always, means if the selling price is less than equilibrium price, so there is always shortage, means demand is high and the supply is less. Okay, then price elasticity. Okay, so any elasticity we are going to calculate or find out a effect on demand or supply oblique supply with respect to price. Okay, so always keep in mind, don't get confused. Quantity always in a numerator and the price always in a denominator. Whether you are calculating the cross elasticity, whether you are calculating the elasticity for the demand, whether you are calculating the elasticity of supply. So always we are find out the requirement of the quantity with respect to the prices. So quantity always in a numerator and the price always in a denominator. So here if you see the percentage change in quantity, to percentage change in price. So we can take an example. At 10 rupees, I can buy the 20 quantity. Okay, because we are calculating the demand. So how much the customer can consume. Okay, at 20 rupees, how much I am going to buy? We are calculating the price elastic demand, considering the demand. At 10 rupees, I can buy 20. At 20 rupees, how much quantity I can buy? Or I mean, it is less than 20 or greater than 20?
Greater than 20?
No, less than 20. See, demand with respect to increase in prices, demand get decrease. If you see, the demand curve is like this. So when the price is less, demand is high. When the price is high, quantity get decreased. Okay, so you need to consider like this. Okay, so now the issue is, means at 10 rupee I can buy the 20 quantity. So it is basically, if you see the change in quantity 10 and the change in prices is again 10. So it is at 10% increase, 10% price increase, there is a decrease in 10%. So it is basically the one. Okay, that ratio could be different. We can calculate in Excel. Price, quantity. Okay, so initially the price is say for 10, and now the price is reduced to 8. Okay, quantity here we can buy 20, as it is reduced to 8, it is 30. Okay, so how much percentage change? Always we are calculating with respect to the original prices, so it is 20%. The same way here, 0.5. Okay, so 50%. Okay, so 20% and the 50% again. So change in price, price is 20%, and change in quantity is 50%. So what would be the price elasticity? It is more than 1 or less than 1, or you can calculate.
What? Wait.
How much? 2.5. Yes. So it is 2.5. Okay. So if the price elasticity is more than 1 and price elasticity is less than 1, that also we will discuss. Okay. So it is generally negative. Okay. Because like with respect to change in prices, there is a decrease in change in quantity, or inversely or reversible ratio. So that's why it is generally negative. The price elasticity of the demand usually negative. That you need to keep in mind. Okay, because it is in inverse proportion. Okay, if the price increases, quantity decreases. Okay, and because of that reason, price elasticity of demand generally negative. Okay, but in case of the supply, it is positive. Okay, the negative price elasticity reflect the downward sloping in demand curve. As price goes up, positive percentage the quantity demanded goes down. So a negative price coefficient result in demand curve normal. So this is basically the new demand, old demand, which we already consider. So almost if there is a negative price elasticity of the demand, then we need to consider this as a normal goods. Okay. So now the interpretation of the price inelastic, absolute price elasticity of the demand is less than 1. That means it is perfectly inelastic. Means whatever may be the price changes, it will not affect to the quantity if it is less than 1, or still the quantity, if it is reduced by 10%, even though the quantity demanded quantity is reduced by 5%, that means it is perfectly inelastic. Okay. Then elastic, absolute price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, and unit elasticity demand is 1. Means like I can give an example. This is 1. It is greater than 1. That means if a slight increase in prices may affect the quantity higher than the price changes, what we saw here. Okay. In the same situation, if quantity is basically 22. So it is 10%. Okay, so it is less than 5. Means even though the prices increase or prices decrease, okay, it will not much affect the quantity. So this is basically some time. You can consider this way. Okay, so in that situation, what happened? The prices increase by 25%, still quantities decrease by 9%. Okay, so if you consider the example of the medical drug, okay, even though the prices increase sharply, it will not affect much to the quantity. Okay, so it is less than 1, that means perfectly inelastic. It means even though there is a changes in a prices, it will not affect much to the quantity demanded. Okay, and the same way, if it is more than 1, that means slight increase in prices may affect the quantity demanded aggressively. Okay, so that is basically the elastic. Okay, so product demand is more elastic when with more substitute available, but is inelastic if few substitute are available. Like Pepsi and Coke. Okay, so if the Pepsi increase the prices, people will shift to Coke, and suddenly the demand for Pepsi goes down. Maybe the percentage of price increase will be less than the demand for the Pepsi may go down, because most of the people started to shift to the Coke. It is not like this. The 10% decrease in price affect the 10% demand, because almost all people may go to the Coke. So 10% increase in price may affect 100% customer base. Okay, so in that situation, we can consider this is an elastic. Okay, and then drug means medicines. Even though there is a 10% increase in price, some patient may avoid to take the medicine, but it will affect hardly 1% people, or even no. So in that situation, it is inelastic. Means increase in prices will not affect the quantity demanded. So particularly if a daily needs item, so even though prices get increased, people need to consume. Okay, so that we need to consider. Okay, now this also we need to take an example. Elastic means greater than 1. So how it will affect? Okay, price increase on total revenue and the price decrease on total revenue. Okay, so if it is elastic greater than 1, means the 10% increase and the 20% decrease quantity, price decrease. Okay, quantity. Okay, so because of that reason, total revenue, if I'm increase the prices by 10%, okay, so like 100 is become 110, okay, and the quantity is 100, but now it is 80. So what would be the calculation? So it is 10,000 and 110 multiplied by 80. So it is basically 8,000. So in that situation, revenue get decrease. If the price increase, total revenue get decrease, and if the price decrease, total revenue get increase. Okay, like 100 to 90, but here the quantity get increase from 100 to maybe 140. So again 10,000. Price decrease, but because of that reason, the quantity increase more than prices. 12,600. So total revenue get increase. Here revenue get decrease. Okay. See, when there is a elastic, that means it is a disproportionate. Means if the price is decreased by 10%, quantity demanded increase by more than 10%. And if the price is increased by 10%, quantity demanded decrease more than 10%. Okay. So accordingly, we should be in a position to calculate. Okay. If the price get increased, okay, so automatically because of price increase, demand get decrease, which is faster than price increase rate. So total revenue get decrease. Okay. And the same way, if the price is decreased, the quantity demanded as a faster rate than price increase. So total revenue get increase. If it is inelastic, because it will not affect much. Okay. So exactly the reversible position, the total revenue get increase. Okay. If it is inelastic, that means the rate of price increase is more than the rate of quantity demanded. Okay. So if the price is increased by 10%, quantity demanded get decreased by 5%. So that's why the total revenue get increased. And if the price is decreased by 10%, quantity demanded may increase by 5%. That's why the total revenue get decreased. And if it is unit elastic, means equal to 1, then the total revenue remain unchanged in both the situation. Any doubt here? Always keep in mind quantity demanded in numerator and the price is in denominator, and accordingly you can calculate. Means you are always comparing the quantity demanded with respect to the prices. Okay, so if it is elastic, that means quantity price change will rate of price change is less than rate of change in quantity demanded. Okay, if it is elastic, and if it is inelastic, rate of price change is less than greater than rate of quantity changes. Now the price elasticity of the supply, same. Changes in quantity supply in a numerator and changes in prices in denominator, but here you will get the positive number. Okay, because if the price get increased, then the supplier is willing to supply more quantity. So it is not in inversely proportionate, it is directly proportionate. So if you can see here the example of old quantity is 500, new quantity is 600. So there is a increase in quantity is 100. Okay, with respect to 500. So it is 20%. 20% is quantity change. Okay, and this is mainly happened because of old price is 10 and now I increase the prices. So it is basically the 10% price increase. So that means the 2-year price elasticity of supply is 2. Okay, so it is elastic one. When it is more than 1, it is elastic. So interpretation again. Inelastic, it is less than 1. Elastic, it is more than 1. And absolute price elasticity is 1. Means the same what we saw in case of the demand. Okay, and the factors affecting the price elasticity of the supplier. So it is depend on the characteristics of the product. Okay, so sometimes we hold the material and we are waiting for the higher prices. Okay, and the time required to produce and supply the goods will affect the price elasticity of the supply. If the time required to produce, say for you need to produce for 5 days, okay, and the customer need in a 3 days, okay. So in that situation, you have a bargaining capacity to charge the higher prices, means because you need to engage because his customer's urgency. So because of that reason, you may charge a higher prices and try to finish your 5 days work in a 3 days time, okay. So this way, I mean, the price elasticity is basically the less. If you can take an example, if particular product, 100 rupees product, you can supply in a 5 days, okay, but customer need in a 3 days. So even though you increase the prices to 120, he is going to buy. Okay, so in that situation, if you see, the price increase is say for 20%, but it will, I mean, he may buy the urgent quantity. So maybe like out of 3, he may need, no, out of 10 quantity, he may need 9 quantity. Okay, so there is a reduction of a 10%, but, or he can charge the same quantity. So it is basically the zero, or how I can write. Even though increase the prices of a 20%, he can supply maximum quantity. The quantity supply may reduce by 10%. So it is less than 1. Okay, so it is inelastic. His supply quantity may reduce by 10%. Okay, so it is inelastic. So whenever there is a short time period, it is the bargaining capacity is with the supplier, and that's why it is inelastic or lower price elasticity. Okay, any doubt here? Price elasticity of demand, price elasticity of supply. Always keep in mind, we always calculate change in demand with respect to change in prices. So change in demand or supply. So change in demand or supply is basically the numerator, and the change in prices is basically the denominator. If it is negative, price elasticity is negative, that means we are calculating for the demand, and if it is positive, that means we are calculating for the supply. Then if it is greater than 1, that means it is elastic. If it is less than 1, that means it is inelastic. Okay, for demand and supply, the same principle. Now the cross elasticity. Because of increase and decrease of the one product, prices of one product, it may affect the increase and decrease of the demand or supply of the other product. That is basically the cross elasticity. So example, car and fuel you can consider. If the price of the car increases, okay, demand for the fuel get decreases. That means it is cross elasticity. If the price of the car increases, okay, so the people are not happy to buy the car, and because of that reason, the consumption of the fuel get decreases. Okay, so that is basically the cross elasticity. Okay, so percentage change in number of unit multiplied by demand, and percentage change in the prices of pipe. Means like say for, if you buy a 5 car, then you may need to, you are going to consume 100 liter fuel. But because of price of car get increase, it is basically the 3 car, and because of that reason, the quantity demand or the supply is basically the, say for 50 liter. Okay, 50 or 60 liter. Okay, so because of changes in price of the car, okay, so it is basically, if I consider like 15 lakh and 10 lakh. So 50% increase in prices affect the 40% decrease in demand of the fuel. Decrease. Okay. So if we calculate the, so again it is 50% price is denominator, and the quantity change of product, different product, that is basically the 40%. Okay, so it is demand. 50% Generally, it is less than that. Yeah, sorry, 60%. 40, yeah. Decrease in demand, yeah, 40%. So 40% and 50%. Okay. So this will be less than 1. So to some extent, it is inelastic. Okay. So this way we need to calculate. Always the price of the one product affect the demand of the other product, and the price always in a denominator and the quantity always in a numerator, and accordingly we need to calculate. Okay, now you can see here. Substitute complementary and unrelated. Okay. Substitute means when you are shifted. Okay. Complementary means you are buying along with. Shifted. Buying along with. Okay. So positive means the price of the product Y goes up, causing the demand of the product Y, product X goes up. Okay. So what does it mean? Even though price of the demand decreased by 50%, and the quantity demand of the product Y increased by 60%. That means it is substitute, because the people are shifting from one product to another product. Okay. Complement is basically, I mean, the car example which we saw. So here, like the price of the car get increased by 50%, but demand of the fuel decreased by 40%. So it is negative. Okay. So if it is negative, that means it is a complement. Means we are going to buy along with the other product. Okay. Substitute means if it is a positive. Okay, then that means with respect to change in the prices, there is a shifting of the customer from one product to other product. So that's why it is substitute. Okay, so whenever it is positive ratio, when you are calculating the cross elasticity, that means it is a substitute goods. When it is a negative ratio, when you are calculating the cross elasticity, that means it is complementary good. Okay, and if it is not affect, I mean the because of price increase of one product, it will not affect the quantity demand or supply of other product. That means it is unrelated. So in that situation, it is coefficient 0. So like, even though the 50% price decrease of one product, it will not affect the demand of, so there is a 0. Okay, so in that situation, unrelated good. Okay, then we can see the one example. The table below indicates how the price of Cerulean steak will affect the quantity of steak sauce demand sold at a local supermarket in a given week. Okay, so price they gave at $6. Quantity steak sauce sold 80, 6.5, basically the increases, which is by 7.69%. So 0.36.67 divided by 0.0769. So it is 44.77 negative. So if it is negative, then what does it mean? Any guess? Complementary. Yeah. So if it is negative, then it is complementary, and if it is positive, then it is substitute. Okay. So this way we need to calculate. I mean, because of cross elasticity. Okay. After calculating the cross elasticity, we come to know whether it is substitute product, whether it is complement product, or it is unrelated product. And the formula is same. Always percentage change in prices, and we need to with respect to percentage change in prices, we need to calculate percentage change in demand. Then income elasticity. So this is cross elasticity. Now income elasticity. If your like income get increase, okay, so then means we will see some practical example of income elasticity. So if your income get increase, what do you think?
People tend to buy more products.
Okay. If income get increase, buying of the product A increases, but buying of the product B decreases. Can you give the example? Product A means the foreign travel. Product B means how I can say public bus, use of the public bus travel. Okay. So what happened if your income get increased, you may afford a car and then you may avoid travel through the public bus. Okay. So demand for the public bus travel gets decreases. Okay. And if your income get increases, you may consume maybe something earlier the five quantity, now you start to, or once in a year you are going for a abroad, now you start to go twice in a year. So that's why the demand for the product A increases. Okay. So like product A we consider as a normal. Okay. So elasticity with respect to income is positive. And the product B we consider as a inferior. Okay, and that's why the elasticity of the income for product B is negative. Means when your income get increased, the consumption get increased. That means it is a normal product. Okay, when your income get increased, but the consumption get decreased, that means it is a inferior product. Okay, means you are just because you don't have an income, that's why you are using that product, but now you want to shift to the upgraded product. So that's why we need to consider this as a inferior. Okay, so in cross elasticity, what you are going to find? Why we are calculating the cross elasticity? Any guess?
To check the inflation or deflation of the complementary products.
Complementary and supplementary. Substitute. Substitute. Okay. Then income elasticity. Why we calculate the income elasticity? Any guess? We just calculate if the income elasticity, if the income increases, the quantity demanded of a particular product increases. That means this product is
Check the superior and inferior products.
normal and inferior. Yeah. Okay. If change in demand increases and change in supply also increases, then what is effect on equilibrium quantity and
Increases.
and price. Yeah, equilibrium
Price is indeterminate.
indeterminate. Okay, and if it is decrease, then what is the situation on equilibrium quantity?
Shortage.
Equilibrium quantity shortage, or you can say the decrease. Okay, and the price is again indeterminate. If both changes in a positive direction or the negative direction, then the price is always indeterminate. Okay, but if change in demand increases and increases, but change in supply decreases. Okay, so it is decreases. So in that situation, what happened? Keep in like evaluate the concept of price ceiling and price floor. Means supply decreases, but the demand increases.
The price will increase.
Price increase.
Quantity
Yeah,
will
price
Price
increase.
ceiling.
Increase. Correct. And the quantity is indeterminate. Okay. The same way, if it is reversible, the demand decreases and the supply increases. So what is the effect on price?
Excess stock.
Price get increase or decrease? Demand, excess stock.
Decrease.
Yeah. So price get decrease. Yeah. Okay. And the equilibrium quantity is indeterminate. Okay. Yeah. So we will take a 15-minute break here, and then we start with the next topic. Okay. So we gather again 8:45. Okay, so can we start now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So now the inflation. Okay. So can you give the examples of the inflation on a prices and in our day-to-day routine life net worth? Any examples? Okay. Say for you have an amount of 1 lakh or yeah 1 lakh. Okay. And you are getting an interest of 6%. Okay. Interest rate. And the inflation rate is 7%. Okay. Can you calculate whether I mean this situation will increase your asset value net worth or decrease your net worth?
Decrease, sir.
Why?
Because sir, interest rate is 6% or inflation is 7%.
Yes.
So
So how much you will get an effect of it?
like 1,000 rupees.
So if you see effect is basically this one. So your asset goes down by 934. Okay, what is the percentage actually? One percent. Yeah. So what happened here? Like your asset value, because of interest rate, your asset value is appreciated. But because at 6%, which is 106,000, 1,06,000, and but because of inflation, the real yeah real value is basically 99,065. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, real value. Okay, so there is a two terminology just you need to keep in mind. One is real value and the nominal value. Okay, so just keep in mind nominal value is basically the face value. Okay, whatever may be the value you are seeing. Okay, like 106,000 is basically the nominal value, and this is real value means the adjusted prices. Okay, so this way inflation affect our monetary asset. And even the same way in liability also means asset value get decreased, so liability value get increased like this. So same thing, an entity is like if in investment debt investment if you consider. So if I want to give the practical example for the debt investment, the same way, because the debt investment is more or less same. It is like 1 lakh, and the 6,000 you will get it. So this will reduce your value. But if it is reverse, vice versa, like 1 lakh, and your interest rate is 7%. So it is yeah, plus 7,000, and then 1.06. 6% is inflation, I consider. I mean, that's why I discounted. So this will give the positive, means the increase in net worth of, sorry, this minus this. So on debt instrument, if the inflation, I mean the return on debt is more than inflation rate, then your debt value get increase, or the investment in debt value get increase. And if it is less than inflation rate, okay, then the investment value of that debt get decreased. Now equity investment. Yeah. So in equity investment, you, I mean, dividend. If the dividend rate is less than inflation, then value of the equity may get decrease. Less than inflation. Then value of equity may get decrease. Same way. Decrease. Okay. And then hedging investment, that also we generally the forex rate also decided on the basis of inflation rate. Inflation rate. So if the country having a more inflation, they have a more inflation, their currency get diluted. Okay. So alternative investment may be used to efficiently hedge against the inflation. Although driven by the myriad factors, real estate tend to increase the value over time and can generate return outpace inflation in the long term. So commodities are also used to hedge against the inflation, as the value of precious metal, energy, livestock or agriculture tend to move in line with the inflation. So hedge funds and private equity investment follow unique strategies, and entities may wish to invest in funds that are designed to protect against inflation. So people are buying the gold. Okay, the main reason is basically because the gold rate also increases along with the inflation. Okay, so here they given one example. Company ABC is concerned about the potential for raising prices over the next several years. To hedge against the inflation, CFO invest 4 million treasury inflation protected securities, paying interest at 1.5% and maturing in 3 years. So after 1 year, inflation rate is 2.5%. The new face value of the security is 4.1 million, and the coupon rate 1.5% will be applied to the 4.1 million face value for the next year's interest payment. So treasury inflation protected securities, basically whatever may be the interest rate committed, 1.5%. Okay, that calculated on the adjusted investment. investment for inflation. So even though initially invested 4 million, but interest calculated at 4.1 million. 4.1 million. Okay, so these are basically, I mean, the other investment opportunity where we can protect the inflation effect. Yeah. So effect of inflation on the debt. So although there is a generally inverse relationship between the interest rate and the value of fixed rate debt. Okay, so why we are saying inverse relationship? Because if the interest rate is high, then the value of the debt get decreased. Okay, say for coupon rate is 6% and the market rate is 10%. 10%. Okay, so 6 investment value is 100,000. Okay, so what is the value? This is basically the face value. Okay, so what is the value of market value of this investment? It is basically 100,000 multiplied by 6% divided by 10%, which is less than the face value. So always if the market rate is more than coupon rate, that means the value of the investment goes down. So same way, if the inflation rate is more than the coupon rate, the market value of the investment goes down. So here you can take the example. Company XYZ issued 1 million in a 5% fixed debt maturing in 10 years. Inflation increases at 2% per year. The company pays 50,000 in interest cost each year, and at maturity when the company pays the principal of 1 million to its shareholder, it will have a cost of 820 348. So how we calculated? The future value divided by the 1 plus interest rate. So future value is basically the 1 million. If I calculate with an inflation rate, it is 820 348. So it is basically the discounting factor which we need to apply. Then effect of inflation on future expenses. So in an inflationary environment, the cost of production that always get increased, requiring entities to increase sell price to maintain the profit margin. Entities that do not have a means of containing the cost or raising sell price without pricing our customer will suffer. Okay, so see, like employee cost mostly increase by 8% to 10%, particularly in India, every year. Okay, so to accommodate this increase, what are the options available with us? Any guess? Either volume or price. Okay, so if you have a 100% variable cost, then even though you increase the volume, it will not support to maintain the profitability. So that's why you need to keep the increase the prices. Okay, why I'm saying 100% variable cost? If my sell is 100 and 80 is my variable cost, okay, so 20 is my margin. If it is variable cost increased by 10, 90, okay, to maintain the 20% profit, I need to increase with the same value. Okay, so like this. So I'll get the like 30, okay, 80, not 9, it is 96. Okay, so it is 24. Okay, so this is again 20%. So that's why whenever we feel that the cost may get increased, okay, so we need to increase the prices of the prices for the cells. Okay, So debt investment, like the valuation of debt investment, how it is affected on the inflation. If the return on my investment is less than inflation rate, then value of the debt goes down. And prices and the equity is basically equity investment. Generally, return on equity is basically the change in prices plus dividend. Okay, like equity. See, original price is 50. We got the dividend of 5 and the current price is 55. What is my total return? This is original price, dividend, and this is my closing price after paying the dividend. What is my return? Any guess? This is the 5 rupees increase in prices after paying the dividend. So 5 plus 5, the total return is 10. Okay. So return on my investment is 20%. Okay. If the inflation rate is 25%, okay, so value of equity goes down. Same way. Down. Okay. And if the inflation is less than 20, then the value of equity goes up. Okay. So in debt, we just need to consider the interest rate, but in equity, because it fluctuates with the market, so opening price minus closing price plus whatever may be the dividend received, that will be the return on equity. Okay. So this just I want to understand whether you can calculate the discounting rate, like why we are doing a rest to the power 10 or something like that. Anyone facing any issue on this? If you are aware, then okay. Otherwise, I can quickly explain the concept.
1 plus r to the power n.
Yeah. So why we are using it? Like today's 1 rupees, if I consider the 2% is my inflation rate. So what is the value of 1 after 1 year? Okay, so it is 0.98. After 2 years, this divide by 1.02. So it is always decreasing by the year to year basis. Okay, so if I consider ten, okay, so you can see it is 820348, which match with here. Okay, so like whenever I'm investing, means if I'm getting 1 rupee after 10 years, okay, so that means I'm getting as on today's value, it is 0.82 with 2% inflation rate, like this. So that's why we need to discount it. So, is everyone aware about this concept or what? Discounting.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So, again, means after this 1 rupees become 0.98 after 1 year, if I consider the 2% discount rate, and after 2 years it is 0.96, means every year what we are doing, we are dividing it with a 102%. Okay, we consider 1 as 100, but now the value after 1 year is 102. That's why we need to divide with a 102% every year. Okay, after 10 year, value of 1 rupee is 0.82. Okay, so if I am receiving a 1 rupee after 10 years, so how much amount I receive today? 0.82, because because of inflation, the value of 1 rupee get eroded. Okay. Say for example, again, 100 rupees. Okay. So if I'm getting an 100 rupees after 1 year, okay, 2% is my annual interest rate. So that means like I may earn 2% on this 100. Okay. So as I'm getting an 100 rupees after 1 year, so that means 100 is my 102 after 1 year. Okay. So today's value is 98, like this.
Okay.
Now the factors that influence the strategy. Okay. Okay. So generally we do SWOT analysis. Means we will take the example of SWOT analysis in manufacturing unit. Okay. These are strength and weaknesses are internal. And opportunity and threats are external. Okay. So whenever you are making any strategy, you need to evaluate like what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. So it is an internal. Whatever the market opportunity available with me, what are the threats I may need to face. These are basically external. Okay. So you can take an example of manufacturing unit. Okay. And can you give some example of strength, weaknesses? First, strength. Any guess?
Coordination among the employees.
Employee coordination, yes.
So advanced technology.
Advanced technology, yes.
Efficient production.
Yeah.
Good infrastructure.
Yes. Infra. Okay. So if you see all this, we can control. Infrastructure, location, it is on the basis of decision of the management. Or how I can say, like customer supplier relationship. Okay. So these are all controlled by the management and they can do easily. Okay. Now, can you tell some example of weaknesses?
Poor maintenance of machineries.
Yes. Or lack of planning.
Lack of coordination among the employees.
Yeah. So, yeah. So whatever may be the strength you gave, don't give me the negative. Means there are so many other factors. Okay. Lack of planning.
Insufficient inventory.
Inventory. Yeah. Overstocking of inventory. Any other?
High operating costs.
High operating cost. Yeah. Or instead of high operating cost. Yeah, but that is also the case. we need to consider high variable cost, or sorry, not variable, it is fixed cost basically, because we cannot reduce as of the sudden. Okay, so these are basically the weaknesses from our side. Okay, and these are also can be controlled by the management. Okay, now opportunities.
Using subsidies given by the government.
Again,
Subsidies provided by the
subsidy. Yeah,
government.
yeah, correct. Which cannot be controlled by us, but this may positively affect our business. Yes. Any other?
Adopting new technologies.
Adopting, no, this is again the how I can say, it depend on us, na. Any other?
Market expansion.
Hmm? Market?
Market expansion.
Yeah, market expansion, or I can say from domestic to international. Means market expansion generally is basically the management decision, but earlier you are operated in a domestic market, but now you have an opportunity because of some certification licenses to expand in an international. So like this. Any other?
More usage of eco-friendly products.
Yeah. So you can attract more customers, or customer start to rely on you. So that is basically you will get, because of using the eco-friendly product, you are able to get additional opportunities. Okay. Now threat.
Huge competition,
Competition, yes.
competitors.
Competition. So any external environment which affect negatively our business, that is basically the threat. Labor shortage, that is also the threat. Technology obsolescence,
Lack of following the tax policies and government compliances.
no, compliances is again the following the compliances is an internal matter, but like new regulation may be the threat which adversely affect to our business. New regulation may be a threat which affect our business. Okay, so what I want to communicate here, strength and weaknesses is basically the internal matter, and the opportunities and threat is basically the external matter. Okay. So we can see this illustration. Diverse Company is an international firm that produces bottles and pump for its three distinct business segments, including food, healthcare, and fragrance. The following SWOT analysis was prepared by an equity analyst to further understand the factors which affect the company's business strategy. The strength is Diverse Company has developed a strong business relationship in many of its international markets. They already have an established market, which has resulted in steadily increasing market share for its product offering. The company has been successful in implementing production efficiencies, which has led to improved operating margins. So these are basically the strength which they develop. Okay, Diverse Company develop. Weaknesses: the equipment the company uses to produce its bottle and pump has exceeded its useful life. The average age of the company's equipment is greater than its industry peers. The company incurs significant repair cost each year. So these are basically the weaknesses. Then opportunities: there has been decreased demand for personal healthcare product in emerging market countries. Although the DC has currently has limited product sales to emerging market, management consider this as a significant opportunity. Okay, so like if you are operated in a domestic market and you may get a license to expand your business in international market, then this is an opportunity. Then threat: the barriers to entry the company's product markets are moderate. DC will have to increase its already significant investment in R&D to maintain its customer base. Okay, so like if they are in a drug manufacturing and they require to have a license, okay, so it is difficult for them to enter in any new market. So that is basically the threat. Okay, then this additional operating cost along with expected further compliance and regulatory cost may erode the company's impressive operating margin. Means if they planning to do some R&D or planning to produce some new product, okay, in that situation they need to bear an additional cost, and plus they need to face some compliance and regulatory cost. Okay, so this may erode the company's impressive operating margin. So whether the R&D gets successful or not, this is contingent. So that's why this will become a threat. Okay, so whenever you are evaluating any business, you need to first identify what is the strength of the business, what is the weaknesses of the business, which controlled by the management, and whatever may be the external environment affect the business. If it is affect positively, then it is an opportunity. If it affect negatively, then it is a threat. Okay, so that we need to do while doing any business unit. Now we are going to see Porter's 5 forces. So again, we will take the example of manufacturing unit, means how the Porter's 5 forces affect the manufacturing unit. So first I will write the Porter 5 forces only. Barrier to entry, second market competition, third substitute product, bargaining, power of customer, and last one is supply. Okay, so these are basically the Porter 5 forces. Okay, so whenever you are going to start any business, okay, you need to evaluate all these things. Okay, now can you tell me one by one? The first one is threat, barrier to entry. So threat of new entry. So how this will affect for a business, or why you consider there is a barrier to entry? What are the factors affecting for barriers to entry?
So to start a business, we need high capital.
Correct. Capital investment. There may be some more factors. So if you see here, government regulation means licensing. Okay.
Consumer behavior changes every time, sir.
Yeah, consumer behavior changes. So it is consumer behavior changes will affect after you enter in the market. Okay, so you need to consider pre-existing customer preferences. Any other? Economies of scale and
Huge
learning
market
curve.
competition.
Sorry?
Huge market competition.
That is another factor. Yes, that is also the case, but that will cover under another factor. Even though there is a competition, you can easily enter. You cannot absorb the competition. That is a separate issue. Okay, but for entry purpose, the basic issue is investment and the licensing. And second issue is basically like all of a sudden you cannot generate the volume. So economies of the scale, learning curve issues, customer brand building, any pre-existing customer preferences. Okay, so these are the factors which may be create a barrier to entry. Means if I want to start the business, okay, I cannot immediately start in one go because I may produce a small quantity, so it is not a price efficient for me, and then I cannot charge even the high prices. Okay. First issue, the capital investment, which cannot be absorbed by anyone. Means whatever the kind of business yeah, or the scale of the business doing by the Adani and Ambani, that cannot manage by other businessmen. Okay, so capital investment is an issue, and the plus the government regulation or the licensing, that is also the very much important. Okay, so even if you see the car manufacturer, okay, so there are limited players. No one can go with a car manufacturing facility because it requires the high investment. And the same way in a pharma industry, no one can enter easily in a pharma industry because it requires a stringent government regulation. And then there are other factors which is basically like the customer preferences, customer loyalties, economies of the scale, learning curve issues, other upfront competitive cost disadvantage. Okay, so these are basically the factors which affect us to decide whether we need to enter in the market or not. Next, market competition. So this is basically the why we need to evaluate the market competition. Okay, so main issue is basically to decide the price and profitability. Okay, see this point you can read here. Okay, but how the market competition affect the business? Just imagine if there is no market competition, what does it mean? Can you evaluate? I mean, what the kind of business?
Monopoly situation.
Monopoly. Yes. Then, so if there is a monopoly, then you can earn as much as possible money, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I tell you something. If it is a monopoly, that means no one want to enter in it. So that can be restricted either by the government regulation. Okay. Or it is not, how I can say, lucrative business, or there is no huge customer base. Keep in mind, if there is a very less market competition, that means the product in which they are dealing, it is a niche product, the requirement or the growth rate is not high. If the growth rate is high and you are able to get the higher margin, then you will definitely face the competition. That also just keep in mind. Most of the time we think that the competition is bad, but I say competition is good. If there is a competition, that means there is a market for the product. If there is no competition or there is no monopoly, that means that product is a niche product and only very few customers want that product. Okay, and if this is the situation, of course you can charge as much as possible price, but again you cannot build the volume. Clear? So that's why intensity of competition you need to see positively. If there is a huge competition, that means you can think that the growth rate is high, or you can assume the growth rate is high. And if there is very less competition, that means the product is a niche product and you cannot get much market. Okay, you can earn the profit, but like you cannot build the volume. Okay, so this way you need to think. Okay, so the issues given here is a rival firm can respond to change in input cost, technology and changes that we need to consider. Rival firms spend significantly on advertising and research and development, and there are strong alliance between rival firm and suppliers. Market growth has allowed such that the increasing market share is the only way to sustain the profitability. Okay, means you have a chance to increase the market share. Okay, and the cost to exit the market exceed the cost of staying in the market. So then we can survive. Okay, so that we need these factors we need to evaluate, of course. Okay, but just keep in mind, if there is a competition, then and only then you can build the business, you can increase your profitability. If there is no competition, okay, so then you can charge the price up to certain level, okay, but you will not get the market, or you cannot increase the volume. Then existence of the substitute product.
This can make customers to switch frequently to the other products.
Correct. So that is the fear. Means if you built a plant, okay, for producing something, and you will find that the other, means your competitor or other business unit come up with some other product which may give some additional features in that product. Okay, so the customer base immediately gets shifted, like pager and the phone. Okay, so pager companies, they start the pager service, but after 1 or 2 years of starting their pager service, the mobile phone came in the market, and immediately the pager business get down. Okay, so that is basically the threat for the businesses. Then bargaining power of the customer. So if the customer has the bargaining power, then what it indicates, you cannot dictate the prices. Okay, so if you enter in the market where you are a price taker, okay, so in that situation you need to always evaluate the kind of customer base you can get it. Okay, so if the customer they are means the single customer can buy a large volume with a multiple suppliers, okay, and we act as a supplier in that situation, then we need to take a price from the customer. We do not have a much bargaining capacity, okay. So this way, I mean, that will become a threat, okay. And the same way, bargaining power of the supplier means producers are more, but there is a single source of supplier. Okay, if this is the situation, then again we cannot dictate the prices. Okay, so these are basically the five forces. Okay, so to bargaining power of the customer, bargaining power of the supplier. Okay, then existence of the substitute product, market competition, and barrier to entry. Okay, so this way you need to consider. Okay, okay. Means just if I want to means the level of threat, it is just a practical example. Okay, practically means you can evaluate. Like if you want to assign whether the threat level is low, whether the threat level is moderate, or whether the threat level is high. Okay, so what means level you are going to assign to barrier to entry? It is low, moderate, or high. Any guess? Means it you may be I mean, even though it is wrong, I'm okay. Low, moderate, or high? Just I want to understand means how you people are looking at the situation.
Moderate.
Okay, so in barrier to entry, either you can enter or not, but you can do an evaluation in a pre decision making situation. Means whether you have a sufficient capital or not, or whether you have a licensing or not. So it is basically the low risk. Okay, so level of threat is low. Either you can do it or you cannot do it. So there is no much risk or the kind of threat. Okay, so that's why barrier to entry is basically either you can consider as a low or low to moderate, but it is more inclined towards low. Then market competitiveness. Okay, to deal with the customer is easy task, or to deal with the supplier is easy task?
Deal with the suppliers.
Is easy. Okay, so market competitiveness and the bargaining power of the customer, that we need to consider as a high level threat. Okay, because you cannot dictate the terms to the market or to the customer. Okay, so that you need to keep in mind. Market competitiveness and the bargaining power of the customer, these are basically the kind of high level threat. Then existence of the substitute product.
Moderate threat.
Moderate, yeah. Okay, so generally we are aware the substitute product. Okay, so that's why it is a kind of moderate threat. And the last one is bargaining power of the supplier. As we already discussed, this kind of threat is basically less than the threat of bargaining power of the customer. So it is again the moderate threat. Okay. So barrier to entry is a low level threat, because either we do the full planning or we are not going to enter into it, enter in the market. If there is any misrepresentation, then and only then we may stuck. Okay. So it is a low level threat. Then market competition and the customer bargaining power of the customer. This is a high level threat, and the existence of substitute product and the bargaining power of the supplier is basically the moderate level of threat. Then competitive strategies. So mostly, I mean, there are two type of competitive strategies. One is cost leadership and the differentiation product. Okay, so we will see through a practical example. Price difference. Okay, so either the businessman can earn by keeping a cost at a lower level and gain the market competition or sustain the market competition, or he can offer something different which no one can offer, no other competitor can offer. Okay, this is the only two way to manage the competition. Okay, now so where you can use the cost leadership advantage, which kind of product?
Cost leadership can be utilized where the market base is very less. We doesn't have much competition.
Okay, so if there is a market base is less, okay, so then you can adopt the price differentiation. Okay, because see, try to understand, for cost leadership you need a volume. Then and only then you can think for reducing the cost. If you don't have a volume, then you cannot reduce the cost. Means the discounts and the process changes, that all you can do when there is a high volume. Okay, so whenever there is a high production or the raw material purchase, high raw material purchase, okay, in that situation you can achieve the cost leadership. Price differentiation you can offer where there is a limited market. Not price differentiation, it is product differentiation, sorry. Product differentiation when there is a limited market, okay, and it is basically how I can sell the luxury product. Okay, volume and the normal goods, I can say. Okay, where you need to maintain the cost leadership. Okay, so in cost leadership, our focus is on volume, and in product differentiation, our focusing is on offering. What additional features we are offering. Okay. In cost leadership, you cannot do much customization, or you can produce the standard. Here you can do the customize. Okay. Then any example you can do where you want to buy a low price product, and any example where you want to buy you are okay with the high price but you need features. Any guess?
Dairy products.
Dairy product. Dairy or daily, whatever may be. Yes. But goods, any how I can say, name of the product.
In market, there are lots of fake paneers which are surrounding. So they customer prefer the paneer should be natural. It should not be chemical wise.
Yeah, but see again, means we need. I'm seeing the cost leadership. I means in your daily life, which product you are okay to buy at the lowest cost. Means the quality will not impact. If you want to buy a product with lowest cost, irrespective of the quality, which could be the product in your daily life. For product differentiation, of course, like phone, car. Just give a thought over it. Toothpaste.
Hangers.
Sorry,
The hangers,
hanger.
cloth hangers,
Yeah, 100%.
and the slippers which we use in
Yeah,
household works
correct,
or
correct, correct. We
in the home.
generally, yeah, household slipper. Yeah. And for product differentiation, of course, phone and the car, where we may affect by the brand, okay, or the facilities or offering given in the product, okay. So there are two type of strategy. Mainly there are two type of strategy. One is differentiation advantage and the cost leadership advantage. So either you are going to keep a minimum cost, okay, and try to supply as much as possible to maintain the profitability, or you are charging a premium but you are selling a niche product, okay. So these are two way of the leadership, a competitive strategy, okay. Now means we just taken read the illustration 7. Toys only company is an online toy retailer that sell toys to the mass consumer market. So whenever you are thinking for cost leadership, okay, you need to make sure it should be with a volume, okay, in order to increase its market share and to compete with the brick and mortar stores. The company's strategy has been focused on offering a complete line of toys at the lowest prices. So this cost leadership strategy has been successful for toys only, given that it sells commodity like product to the general US toy retail market, okay. So whatever may be the product which you can supply in a volume, there you can adopt a cost leadership strategy, and it works when the buyers have a bargaining power, okay. So that also you need to keep in mind. If the customer is not willing to pay the premium, then and only then you can adopt this strategy. So buyers have a bargaining power, means the customer can dictate the prices, then and only then you can play with this strategy. And low switching cost, why low switching cost, we need to consider. Bargaining power, low switching cost. See, if the customer has the bargaining power, that means you cannot charge the premium. Okay, can dictate the prices. Okay. So if you cannot charge the premium, so to sustain the competition, you need to produce your product with a low cost so that you can supply at a lower prices. And low switching cost, that is also the important factor. Like if you start to use a particular product, okay, and you can easily replace. Means I can give the example in manufacturing unit. Okay, in machines you need to use same oil, otherwise you need to replace the entire oil, you need to clean the machine. Okay, so switching cost is very high. So once you means you start to supply the oil, it is difficult to replace the other oil. Okay, otherwise it may affect to the high value machine. Okay, oil price is less. Okay, so that's why the switching is very difficult. If the switching is very difficult, then you can think, you can charge the premium, and that's why you can think for giving an additional offering to your customer. But if switching is easy and if you try to charge the premium, then he may replace your product. Okay, so that's why you need to evaluate what is the impact of switching cost. Okay, whether the switching cost is high or less. If the switching cost is less, then you need to focus on the reduction of the cost. Okay, then differentiation strategies. So quality bathrooming sells high-end bathtubs and accessories to a regional market. Because the company offers unique feature, design and material, its bathtub sells at a premium. This strategy has been successful for the company, giving its ability to clearly overvalued product to its retail customer market. Means instead of normal bathtub, if you decide to install or use the jacuzzi, okay, so then you are okay to pay the higher prices depend on the features of the jacuzzi. Okay, so that's why, and this you cannot produce in a long run, because whether you are using the bathtub or the jacuzzi, it will not affect a customer to large extent. Okay, so that's why you cannot sell in a volume. Only those people who can afford, they will buy it. Okay, so in that situation you can offer additional features and charge a premium to customer. But if it is a daily needs item, okay, where the customer is not willing to pay the premium, then you need to focus on cost leadership. Then best cost strategies. So best cost strategy combine the cost leadership strategy with the differentiation strategy to give customer high value for their purchase price. So I mean, you cannot go with the cost leadership only, or you cannot go with the product differentiation. Okay, you need to trade off between both, or you need to adopt a strategy where you can reduce the cost, and along with that you are giving a additional feature. So if firm is able to achieve the lowest cost among its closest competitor while matching them on a feature desired by the consumer, it will succeed. Okay, so if you are giving offer a product with a lower cost, but you can manage all the features which the competitors giving or delivering to their customer, then you will be succeed. So Walmart Inc. Is a mass merchandiser that uses a best cost strategy to increase its market share. Because of sheer economies of the scale, purchasing, distribution, the company is able to offer the lowest price on its vast product line, which include many name brand as well as own generic brand. So Walmart business strategy continue to be focused on offering customers superior product at the overall lowest prices. Okay, so they are basically reduce the cost of the product as well as giving a customer branded product. Okay, so if they are giving a branded product, that means they are offering the like product differentiation strategy. But because they are buying in a bulk and they have a strong network of purchase and distribution, they are able to sell at a lower price. So they are adopting both the cost leadership as well as the product differentiation. Then focus on a niche strategies. So firm which cost leadership or differentiation strategy may choose to focus their chosen strategy on a select small group of consumer or a niche where customer have a specialized needs and preferences. So in this situation, we are not giving a more thought on a cost. Okay. So all-star baseball gloves Inc. makes a premium baseball gloves for the collegiate professional niche market, which includes collegiate baseball, minor league baseball, and the major league teams. So the company has a successful because it uses the highest quality leather material and includes special feature in each of the player position baseball gloves it manufacture and sell to the collegiate professional niche market. Okay, so when you are selling or entering into the niche market, you cannot give a thought of cost leadership. Okay, you need to focus on a offering of the product. Okay, so focused niche strategies work well when the niche has a large demand and there are few competitors. So focused niche strategy may fail when the competitors see a profitable niche and enter the market, or when the firms are not easily responsive to the customer needs. You can, if there is an increase in competition, then you may need to wind up or you are going to fail. Okay, and if you are not able to respond to the customer, then also you need to, you may get fail in the business. In niche market, just imagine in niche market, if the competition increases, then what will be the situation? What is the characteristics of the niche market? Any guess? When we say the market is niche,
Only applicable to small sector.
small sector. It is not only the small sector. The basically we do not have a much market. Okay, you cannot expand the market. Okay, and in this situation, if the competitor enter, so what happened? There is no chance to increase the market. Okay, and that's why there is no chance to increase the market. That's why we are saying it is a niche market, but the volume get distributed. So it may possible not a single player able to recover their cost. So whenever you are enter into the market, and if you want, particularly you want enter in a niche market, then you need to make sure either you have a something different. Okay, then and only then you can kill the competition entirely and you can survive. Okay, and if you have a similar product with your competitor, then no one, both the players cannot survive like this. Okay, so like as I said, the cost leadership, when you are dealing with the product where the customer has the bargaining capacity and you can increase the volume, then you need to focus on a cost leadership. But if you are producing if you are producing a tailor-made product or planning to give a more offers or planning to give a more features, okay, then you need to make sure whether you are able to get the premium from the customer. Okay, so this way we need to decide means how we need to manage the market.
So,
Yeah.
if we take an example of pilgrimage in the hilly area, there are very small stores and all which are visible, one or two stores. So that will be the focus strategy.
No.
Some
Okay, so basically it depends on the product what they are selling.
the general stores, sir. They are
General
keeping
store,
all the
yeah. So
basic products.
always they need to focus on a cost leadership. See, if
Won't that be a niche market? Because
no,
it's a small sector.
it is not like this. In a village, if you see, in a village, you will find a one shop only. But that one shop is sufficient to cater the village. If we increase the prices, okay, the people may go to the other village and then they can buy it. Okay, if you have a product where you cannot give any additional offering or the feature, okay, then you need to focus only on a cost leadership. That's why it means that Amazon or DMart, why they are successful? Because they are selling a product with a very low prices. If you can offer a
But in
feature,
hilly areas, no,
sorry,
but in hilly areas, we can see that if there is lot of low temperature, and if consumers are feeling very cold, so
yeah,
they make the Maggie and they charge 40 rupees or 50 rupees based on the convenience they want.
correct. Which because if the reply means the additional cost, if the customer means whatever maybe the customer need to bear an additional cost from other sources, if your price is less, then it is okay. But that we are not saying as a premium because this cost also need to absorb by the buyer or supplier. Sorry, supplier. Okay. If the supplier started to charge extraordinary cost, then customer may shift to other trader or the means any I mean they can demand on their own. They can bring the material product on their own. So it is totally depend on like the product feature. If you can offer an additional feature, then you can charge the premium. But if you cannot offer the standard, means if the product is standard, then you need to focus on a cost leadership only.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any other point? I mean, in a business, if you like join as a CFO or controller, then this kind of question arises in a practical sense as well. I mean, like if you work in some capital equipment manufacturing company and you are just selling a standard machine, you're not manufacturing as per the customer requirement, then you need to always focus on a cost leadership. But if you are manufacturing as per the customer requirement, then you can do some expenses in R&D, try to give a better feature to the customer and get the premium from the customer. Okay. Any doubt? Any other point we need to discuss?
No, sir.
Okay, so if there is no such point to discuss, then I will close the class for today and tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you.